But an unexpected death is one where you look round and you go, there's no good reason why this person should have died at this time.
An unexpected death is one of those moments that stops the world in its tracks. It is a time when logic seems to fail, and you look around and think, there's no good reason why this person should have died at this time. It is sudden, incomprehensible, and haunting. For the world, the death of Princess Diana was exactly that, a loss that should not have happened, yet did. For years, the truth about that night in Paris remained buried, hidden beneath layers of speculation, rumors, and unanswered questions. People wanted answers, but the answers never came. Not fully. Until now. A shocking revelation has surfaced that threatens to rewrite everything we thought we knew. The head of the police has finally spoken, breaking decades of silence. His words were chilling. That night in Paris wasn't simply an accident. Diana's final moments were not as the public had believed. Behind the crash was a web of decisions. Some made in fear, others in power. Every choice that night is now being questioned. And in the dark, narrow confines of the Alma Tunnel, tragedy unfolded in ways the world was never meant to witness. The world watched, held its breath, and mourned. But the mourning was not just for a princess or a public figure. It was personal. There was something about Diana that connected her to millions of people. Her death felt like a betrayal of hope, a reminder that life can be cruelly unfair. And that night, everything changed. This is not just a story about a car crash. It is a story about fear, power, and the pursuit of truth. It is a story of grief that refuses to fade, no matter how much time passes. The Alma Tunnel still haunts those who remember, and the Mercedes that crashed there remains an enduring symbol of sorrow and unanswered questions. Across Paris and London, across the world, people tried to make sense of what happened. The headlines screamed the facts, but the truth was hidden beneath the words. "Diana is gone," they read. And yet, in the silence between those words, a much deeper story was waiting to emerge. This is where our journey begins, at the edge of disbelief and the heart of tragedy, where every revelation pulls us closer to the reality that had been hidden for so long. The story of that night is not just a story of death. It is a story of courage, fear, and the unrelenting human quest to understand. An unexpected death is one of those moments that stops the world in its tracks. It is a time when logic seems to fail, and you look around and think, there's no good reason why this person should have died at this time. It is sudden, incomprehensible, and haunting. For the world, the death of Princess Diana was exactly that, a loss that should not have happened, yet did. For years, the truth about that night in Paris remained buried, hidden beneath layers of speculation, rumors, and unanswered questions. People wanted answers, but the answers never came, not fully, until now. A shocking revelation has surfaced that threatens to rewrite everything we thought we knew. The head of the police has finally spoken, breaking decades of silence. His words were chilling. That night in Paris wasn't simply an accident. Diana's final moments were not as the public had believed. Behind the crash was a web of decisions, some made in fear, others in power. Every choice that night is now being questioned, and in the dark, narrow confines of the Alma Tunnel, tragedy unfolded in ways the world was never meant to witness. The world watched, held its breath, and mourned. But the mourning was not just for a princess or a public figure. It was personal. There was something about Diana that connected her to millions of people. Her death felt like a betrayal of hope, a reminder that life can be cruelly unfair. And that night, everything changed. Across Paris, under the dim glow of streetlights, the Alma Tunnel had become the site of heartbreak. A car sped into the darkness. Inside, Princess Diana and Dodi Al-Fayed were seated, unaware of the fate that awaited them. The crash was sudden. The news spread quickly. Crowds gathered in shock, cameras flashed endlessly, and the world wept. The broken Mercedes became a symbol of sorrow, a haunting reminder of what had been lost. How could this happen? Voices echoed from London to Paris, from family homes to public squares. It wasn't just a royal tragedy. It was personal for millions. People remembered her warmth, her compassion, her ability to make anyone feel seen. Diana's funeral was watched by millions, one man said. The streets were packed. Flowers covered every wall. We loved her. Near Buckingham Palace, a woman whispered, "That day didn't pass easily. People held their breath, and the pain stayed. It didn't go away with time." Others admitted openly, "It still hurts." 10 years passed before a British inquest finally began. Families waited desperately for the truth. "We need answers," they said. The inquest was set to last 6 months and cost millions. But for many, the cost didn't matter. "Just tell us the truth," people begged. The coroner in charge, determined to be transparent, showed new footage from Diana's final night, clips no one had ever seen before. Piece by piece, the last hours of Diana's life were laid bare. One detail stood out. Diana and Dodi were holding hands for nearly 8 minutes. No words were spoken, only silent connection. "That said everything," the coroner remarked. Another clip showed Diana smiling, a smile so genuine it made the tragedy even harder to bear. The jury was tasked with examining 20 critical points: the role of the paparazzi, Henri Paul, the driver, and every decision that led to that night. Letters from Prince William, Prince Harry, and Prince Philip urged caution. "Please don't rush," they wrote. The royal family wanted the full truth uncovered. The public, too, insisted on thoroughness. "We can wait a little more if it means finding out what really happened," a woman said. 2 years after the crash, French judge Hervé Stéphane delivered his findings. Henri Paul had been drunk, the report stated. He shouldn't have been driving, yet doubts lingered. Footage showed Henri Paul walking steadily, bending to tie his shoes, seemingly unharmed. The contradiction between the tests and the video planted seeds of uncertainty. Could the tests have been wrong? Some wondered. In Britain, the process was slower. The first coroner passed away before starting the inquest. The second handed the case to Lord Stevens, the top British police officer, who concluded there was no evidence of conspiracy. Lady Butler Sloss followed but faced controversy. Critics doubted her experience and feared she might obscure proceedings. Public outcry demanded transparency. She resigned. Finally, in 2007, Lord Justice Scott Baker opened the inquest. 80 potential jurors were considered, 25 were chosen for fairness and impartiality. The weight of the case was immense. "This matters to the world," the coroner reminded them, urging focus on facts alone. Footage from the Ritz Hotel became crucial. Diana and Dodi walked through the halls, peaceful, unconcerned. They slipped out the back, unnoticed by the cameras, their faces calm. Henri Paul's condition became a focal point. Though tests indicated extreme intoxication, his behavior on camera suggested otherwise. Diana's fears before the crash were also examined. She had confided in her lawyer, Lord Mishcon. "I don't feel safe," she had said. She requested better protection, heightened security. Mishcon had initially doubted her concerns, but later sought a second opinion from Commander Jeffson, who confirmed Diana's fears were at least partly justified. Her focus and clarity during that conversation remained etched in his memory. Despite media claims of instability, Diana never faltered. At charity events, she laughed, joked, and maintained her composure. "Let them talk," she once said lightly, brushing off gossip. Those around her saw her strength, the determination to carry on, to remain herself even under crushing pressure. Every part of the inquest was meticulously examined. Nothing was skipped. It was not just a search for facts. It was a journey through grief, trust, fear, and resilience. Mohammed Al-Fayed, Dodi's father, declared the crash was no accident, sending shockwaves through the proceedings. Each piece of evidence, every recollection, every moment of footage was analyzed, questioned, and weighed. The inquest was a collective act of remembrance. It demanded reflection not only on what happened, but on the fragility of life, the consequences of fear and human error, and the importance of truth. People wanted to know if the tragedy could have been prevented, if choices made that night could have been different. The lives lost in that tunnel mattered, and they still do. The night before the crash, Diana had expressed her concerns. She wanted her car better protected, more security. She had feared for her safety. These were not fleeting worries. They were real, rational fears. Those closest to her saw her clarity, her focus, and the courage she displayed every day. Diana's story, her strength, her humanity, and the circumstances of that night continue to resonate. Her life and death are more than history. They are a testament to resilience, to love, to loss, and to the pursuit of truth. Even now, decades later, people search for answers, compelled by the same questions that have haunted the world since that night in Paris. The tragedy remains. The memory endures, and the story of her final hours is still unfolding. Paris, 1997. The city shimmered under the evening lights, unaware that tragedy was about to strike beneath its streets. The Alma Tunnel, normally a passage of routine, became the stage for an event that would shock the world. Princess Diana and Dodi Al-Fayed had left the Ritz Hotel that night, slipping quietly through its halls. They were not hurrying, not panicked. Cameras may have been following, but in their private moments, there was calm, a fleeting peace before the world would shatter. The Mercedes glided into the tunnel, dark and silent, carrying 2 young lives and the weight of public fascination. The crash was sudden. The car's speed, the curve of the road, the shadows of the walls, all converged into a moment of irreversible loss. News traveled fast. Crowds gathered, cameras flashed endlessly, and disbelief spread. "Diana is gone," read the headlines. Across London, Paris, and countless cities beyond, millions mourned. The broken vehicle became more than a wreck. It was a symbol of sorrow, a testament to lives ended too soon. For those who had loved her from afar, the death was intimate. People felt they had lost a family member. "We loved her," one mourner said, remembering her warmth, her ability to connect with ordinary people. Buckingham Palace became a place of quiet grief. Flowers, letters, and tears marked a global mourning, while discussions of responsibility and accident ran rampant in newspapers, on television, and in private homes. Yet, even in the immediate aftermath, questions arose. How could this have happened? Henri Paul, the driver, was under scrutiny. The role of the paparazzi chasing the car through Paris streets became a point of suspicion. For some, the crash seemed preventable. For others, it was inevitable. In those first moments, confusion reigned, and the world was left holding its breath. Every detail mattered. The streets, the crowd, the flashing cameras, each piece was part of a narrative that would soon grow complex. Families and friends of the victims demanded answers, even as authorities struggled to piece together the evidence. For the public, the crash was not just news. It was a personal wound, a story that would haunt the collective consciousness for decades. 2 years after the crash, the French investigation concluded. Henri Paul had a blood alcohol level far above the legal limit. "He shouldn't have been driving," the report declared. But doubts lingered. Videos showed him walking steadily, bending down to tie his shoes, appearing entirely capable. Could the tests have been flawed? This contradiction fueled speculation, laying the groundwork for the British inquest. In the UK, the path to truth was slower. The first coroner passed away before proceedings could begin. The second handed the case to Lord Stevens, Britain's top police officer, who completed an investigation but found no evidence of a conspiracy. The public was dissatisfied, questioning whether justice and transparency were truly served. Lady Butler-Sloss followed, facing intense scrutiny and criticism. Allegations of bias and inexperience followed her, and public pressure forced her resignation. Finally, in 2007, Lord Justice Scott Baker reopened the case. Jury selection was meticulous. 80 potential jurors were examined. 25 were chosen, free of personal ties to the royal family, the Al Fayed family, or intelligence services. They were instructed to block out external noise and focus solely on the facts. "This matters to the world," the coroner reminded them, emphasizing the weight of their responsibility. The inquest examined 20 points, delving into Diana's final hours. Footage from the Ritz Hotel revealed calm, peaceful moments, contradicting the notion that fear dominated her final night. Her hand in Dodi's, her smiles, and the serene way she carried herself were observed and noted. Every piece of evidence was analyzed, every claim verified. Footage became the heart of the inquest. The cameras showed Diana and Dodi walking the Ritz corridors, not rushing, not anxious. Their movements were natural, almost serene. Then came the Mercedes footage. The car entered the tunnel, the moment of impact captured by eyewitnesses and traffic cameras alike. The jury examined Henri Paul's behavior closely. The French report indicated high intoxication, yet video evidence suggested a composed, coordinated driver. This discrepancy raised questions about testing accuracy and the reliability of initial conclusions. The role of the paparazzi was also scrutinized. Were they a contributing factor? Did their pursuit exacerbate the danger? Diana's fears prior to the crash were considered with weight. Her conversation with Lord Mishcon, her lawyer, revealed serious concern for her safety. She requested enhanced security for her car and her personal protection. Commander Jeffson later confirmed that her fears were at least partially justified. This reinforced the notion that Diana had been aware of potential risks and had sought to mitigate them. Additional evidence included letters from the royal family, urging careful attention to the investigation and full disclosure of facts. The jury was instructed to consider everything: the sequence of events, the actions of the driver, the environment in the tunnel, and Diana's own instincts and observations. Each detail was part of a mosaic that the world had been waiting to see completed for over a decade. The British inquest was long delayed, hindered by the deaths and resignations of coroners. Lord Justice Scott Baker's opening in 2007 marked a turning point. The courtroom was solemn, heavy with anticipation. 80 potential jurors were summoned, their backgrounds scrutinized to ensure impartiality. Ultimately, 25 were selected, free from ties to the royal family, the Al Fayed family, or British intelligence. The coroner reminded them, "This matters to the world. Stick to the facts. Block out everything else." From day one, the inquest demanded meticulous attention. Every photograph, every snippet of footage, every eyewitness account was examined. The jury had to determine the role of Henri Paul, the driver, who had been reported as intoxicated, and the influence of the pursuing paparazzi. Each piece of evidence was weighed against the others. Nothing could be ignored. Letters from Prince William, Prince Harry, and Prince Philip reinforced the gravity of the case, asking for patience and thoroughness. "Please don't rush," they wrote. The world watched as legal teams reconstructed Diana's final hours, examining the route from the Ritz Hotel to the tunnel, the timing of each movement, the behavior of the occupants in the car, and the response of emergency personnel. The jury also had to consider Diana's fears. Her conversation with her lawyer, Lord Mishcon, revealed concerns about her safety. She had requested better protection and had expressed unease about being followed. Commander Jeffson confirmed her instincts were not unfounded. The inquest acknowledged that Diana's awareness of danger and her requests for security were central to understanding the sequence of events that led to the crash. Diana's humanity shone through every piece of testimony. Staff recalled her composure in the face of public scrutiny and personal tragedy. Even when newspapers questioned her mental health, she maintained dignity and humor. "Let them talk," she had said lightly at a charity event, her smile masking the pain she carried inside. Her team described a woman of immense courage who balanced grief and responsibility with remarkable grace. Friends and aides remembered her focus and determination, despite the pressures of fame and the challenges of her personal life. "She was holding on," one staff member said, "never falling apart, never losing herself." This insight added depth to the inquest. Diana was not a passive victim of circumstance. She had agency, awareness, and foresight. Her fears were real, not imagined. The inquest recognized the significance of these human elements, understanding that the tragedy was not only a legal matter, but a profoundly emotional one. Muhammad Al-Fayed's testimony, insisting the crash was no accident, further complicated the narrative. His grief was raw, and his insistence on answers pushed the investigation into areas that demanded careful, painstaking scrutiny. Each witness, each piece of recollection, contributed to a mosaic of grief, fear, and the search for truth. At its core, the inquest was more than an examination of events. It was a study of human emotion, trust, fear, and grief intertwined. Diana's loss had become a collective sorrow, felt worldwide. Trust in the system, in those who were meant to protect her, was questioned. Fear, both hers and the public's, loomed over every decision, every piece of evidence. Grief was omnipresent, personal and global, echoing in the hearts of millions who had loved and admired her. The inquest revealed the fragility of life and the consequences of choices, large and small. It demanded reflection on human error, the pressures of fame, and the unseen forces that shaped that night. In exploring these themes, the jury, the public, and those closest to Diana came closer to understanding the tragedy, though the emotional weight remained as heavy as ever. The night before the crash, Diana had shared her fears with her lawyer, Lord Mishkan. "I don't feel safe," she said, requesting increased protection. Commander Jeffson confirmed that her concerns were not unfounded. These final hours, these moments of clarity and foresight, emphasized her courage. Even decades later, Diana's story resonates. Her humanity, her fears, her courage, and her tragic death continue to captivate the world. The inquest was not just a legal examination. It was an exploration of memory, grief, and the pursuit of truth. Each revelation, each witness, each piece of evidence contributed to a fuller understanding, honoring not just Diana, but everyone lost in the Alma Tunnel. The world continues to remember, mourn, and reflect. Her life and death remain a testament to resilience, love, and the relentless search for truth. The story of Diana's final night is more than history. It is a reminder that some truths, though delayed, are worth waiting for. The photographers who chased Diana's car that night became central to every theory. Their relentless pursuit, cameras flashing, added chaos to the already dangerous situation. Every movement of the Mercedes was scrutinized, documented, and replayed endlessly in the media. Some argued their presence directly contributed to the crash. The jury examined how their actions intersected with Henri Paul's driving, questioning whether fear or pressure from being followed influenced his choices. Eyewitnesses described the chase: flashes cutting through the darkness, engines roaring, chaos on the narrow tunnel road. It was terrifying, one bystander said. The cars were weaving, flashing, everyone panicked. The paparazzi were not just observers. They had become participants in the unfolding tragedy. The inquest asked hard questions. Were they reckless? Could they have prevented it by slowing down or stopping? Or were they simply capturing what they saw? Letters, testimonies, and police reports painted a conflicting picture. Some photographers claimed they were following protocol, trying to maintain distance, yet video evidence suggested the pursuit was closer and faster than safe. The inquest weighed every angle, balancing public curiosity against responsibility. The role of the paparazzi highlighted a broader theme: the dangers of fame. Diana's life had always been under the lens. Public attention, once protective, had become a source of risk. The inquest revealed how this intrusion, combined with human error and circumstance, could lead to catastrophe. Henri Paul's actions that night were under intense scrutiny. The French report indicated high blood alcohol levels, a conclusion that sparked debate. But video footage told a different story. Paul appeared coordinated, calm, bending to tie his shoes, walking without difficulty. This contradiction became a key focus for the jury. Questions arose. Was he capable of handling the car safely? Did external pressure, including paparazzi pursuit, affect his decisions? Experts analyzed his behavior frame by frame. Some concluded the tests may have been flawed. Others argued that while he showed no immediate signs of impairment, alcohol still could have slowed reaction time or impaired judgment subtly. Paul's role became symbolic of the inquest's challenge: discerning human error in a complex, high-pressure scenario. His presence was both a trigger and a subject of analysis. The inquest's focus on him underscored that accidents are rarely simple. They are woven from multiple, sometimes invisible threads of choice, circumstance, and risk. Before the crash, Diana had made her concerns clear. Speaking with her lawyer, Lord Mishcon, she expressed unease and requested enhanced protection for her vehicle. "I don't feel safe," she said. She was aware of danger and sought to mitigate it. Commander Jeffson later confirmed that Diana's instincts were legitimate. Her foresight and caution were overlooked at the time, but in hindsight, they carried immense weight. The inquest examined these conversations closely, framing them as evidence of Diana's awareness and rationality. Her concerns reflected more than personal anxiety. They were a warning. She understood that fame could make her vulnerable. She acted responsibly, but fate and circumstance conspired against her. This insight humanized Diana for the world, revealing a woman aware, cautious, and courageous to the very end. Diana's death was not just a news story. It was a collective emotional event. Millions around the world mourned. Streets were packed during her funeral. Television screens broadcast her life and death to every corner of the globe. Flowers, letters, and tears marked public spaces as ordinary people sought to connect with her memory. The grief was intimate, yet universal. People felt they had lost a part of themselves. Her ability to connect, to empathize, had made her life more than royal. It had made it personal for the world. Her loss triggered a reflection on mortality, vulnerability, and the fragility of life. Even years later, the impact remained. People revisited the crash, the inquest, the unanswered questions. Her story became a symbol of both tragedy and endurance, a reminder of the intersection between public attention and private vulnerability. The inquest was more than a courtroom event. It was a journey into the heart of truth, grief, and human responsibility. Every witness, every piece of evidence, every frame of footage contributed to the larger picture of that fateful night. The jury faced an immense task: separating fact from speculation, truth from rumor, while honoring the lives lost. Diana's final hours were reconstructed meticulously. The public saw her calm, her hand held by Dodi Al-Fayed, her smiles, and her composed demeanor. Henri Paul's actions were examined in minute detail. The pursuit of the paparazzi was assessed. Every decision, from her request for increased security to the timing of the car's departure from the Ritz Hotel, was scrutinized. The inquest revealed the human element behind every statistic and report. It was a reminder that tragedy is rarely simple. Choices, circumstances, and unseen forces converge in moments that can change everything. For Diana, those choices and the world around her collided in the Alma Tunnel. One of the most important outcomes of the inquest was the lessons it offered. The investigation highlighted the dangers of relentless media pursuit, the importance of personal security, and the fragility of human life. It reminded the world that even individuals who seem invincible are vulnerable. Diana's foresight, her concerns for safety, and her courage under pressure provided a model of awareness and resilience. Her life demonstrated the need for careful consideration in high-risk situations, whether for public figures or ordinary individuals. The inquest also emphasized the responsibility of those involved in public safety, including drivers, security personnel, and the media. Accountability, diligence, and awareness can prevent tragedy. The Alma Tunnel crash became a stark lesson in the consequences of human error and circumstance, amplified by fame and public scrutiny. Even decades later, Diana's legacy endures. Her compassion, courage, and connection with the public remain unmatched. The inquest and the revelations that emerged only deepened the understanding of her life and death. The story of her final night became more than a tragedy. It became a testament to resilience, awareness, and the human spirit. Her influence continues to resonate through charity work, public consciousness, and the lives of those she touched, personally and indirectly. Diana's story is a reminder that humanity, empathy, and courage can shine even in the face of immense pressure and danger.